Welcome back to Adventures with Bam. I'm Brent Billings.
And I'm Maggie Billings.
And this episode has us marveling and or dissolving into laughter over some of the things Maggie has seen come into her store.
That's right. Another week of hearing about my work.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a tease, and it's like, oh man, we got to talk about some of the crazy things.
A little bit, in honor of my 10-year anniversary. So,
do you know the number? Like, how many items are donated in a given week, year? I don't know.
I don't have a number.
Tens of thousands in a year, hundreds of thousands.
Oh, easily hundreds of thousands in a year.
So
it's
a giant sorting game.
It is a huge sorting. And that's, the amount of things that we take, because a lot of stuff that gets donated, unfortunately, is not sellable, or it is, but there's so much stuff that we basically can take, the best stuff that we have space for. And unfortunately, we can't take the rest. We recycle as much as we can. If it can be recycled, we recycle it. Clothing gets recycled, shoes get recycled, metal, plastic, electronics, those all get recycled.
Now, I wouldn't normally think about clothing being recyclable, but like you guys have a baler. You shove it all into this cube and then it gets shipped off to somewhere where, and like when you have that much in one spot, then it's actually worth the effort versus me with a couple of shirts. I can't really do anything with that.
Sure.
But
yeah.
Anyway, let's get into the actual items. Give me the first one.
Okay. So the first one, and this is also the earliest one. This is pre-remodel.
The earliest one, what?
The earliest.
Like the first time you're like, man, this is crazy?
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay.
Definitely the earliest thing. So here's what happened. I would have these bins of things to sort through and, kind of check out each item, decide, do I want this? Do I not want this? And typically if it was something that I'm like, I think this might be special, but I need to do some research on this item, learn more about it, figure out what this is, what it's worth. Back then I was a bit of a procrastinator. And if I wasn't immediately sure what it was and needed to look it up, that was kind of my, it was the last thing on my list. It was the lowest priority. And if it was small and not in the way, it would get put off and put off and put off. So I had this one random looking thing. The best way for me to describe it visually is it was about the size and shape of like a kind of a small camera lens and metal and heavy like that. And it was black on the outside, kind of heavy. It said made in Liechtenstein, and it had a bunch of little tiny metal kind of notches that could go up and down. That's all it was. There was nothing else identifying about this. This is also pre-Google Lens for people who just use Google Lens. That didn't exist back then. And then even after it did exist, it was completely unreliable for a while. So this was all me trying to type in, how much can you find when you just search made in Liechtenstein on the internet? So anyway, one day I finally get to the bottom of this bin. I'm like, this is sitting here for months. I got to just figure out what to do with this stupid thing. So I'm on eBay searching made in Liechtenstein camera lens or black. I don't even remember. Again, this is probably at least 9 years ago. This was early on in my Hope Center career. I can't find anything. There is nothing like this coming up on eBay, on Google, on Bing. There is nothing. So I set it aside and I'm planning, it's metal. It's a hunk of metal. So I'm planning to recycle this at the end of the day. End of the day comes, I'm cleaning off my desk. This is supposed to go in the recycling. And I just get a vibe. I'm like, maybe I should just look this up one more time. I feel like the internet has more to give me here. So I start to type it in again and realize that the first time I had misspelled Liechtenstein. I had mixed up the E and the I or something. So I fixed that. And sure enough, I get a bunch of results on eBay that this is an antique calculator that was consistently selling on eBay for around $2,000. So I was like, oh my. So I, double check, make sure I'm not crazy. I'm like, okay, I never would have guessed that. I think I put $500 or $600 at that point. And I was like, this is still a lot of money, but this is also a very niche item. It's not like there were a ton of them out there selling, but there were 5 or 6 listings that had sold for that much on eBay. But pretty niche, not universally sought after. So I put like $600 on it, and it sold the next day. But not to just some rando. It sold to a guy, Dimitri, who is like a steady, not just daily, but 3 times a day shopper / reseller. So he snatched it right up, and I was happy to see it find a loving home.
Fantastic find.
Yeah, it truly was.
Amazing how close it was to going into
so
the recycling bin.
So close.
All right, what's next?
So next we have a couple of violins. This is just from the last year. I believe they're actually both still there. They haven't sold yet because these are kind of sensitive. But we have a German violin, an antique German violin from 1781, which is pretty old. And also, what is particularly special about this is it still had some gut strings on them. So if you know anything about stringed instruments, I can't speak for guitars or anything else. I can only speak for violins.
I mean, I barely know. I feel like I know nothing. When you say that, I'm like, I don't understand.
What is this?
Please explain.
So back in the day, at least for violins, strings were made from sheep intestines.
Sure.
And when
most instruments were.
Okay, well, there you go. So
various parts of
you
the
do
sheep.
know this. That's what gut strings are.
Well, no, I didn't actually know that, but it doesn't surprise me. Like,
okay.
Bagpipes were...
I don't want to hear about it's too gross. I can't think about it.
I'm just saying.
Don't go any further. I know where you're going to say it. I don't want to.
The Native Americans used the whole buffalo.
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear
makers
it. You
used the
gotta
whole
cut it
sheep.
up. No, I will end all of my stories. I will cut you off.
Shofar.
So anyway, now that to say, the gut strings, are they from 1781? Absolutely not. There's no way. Gut strings were still in use for certain strings on the violin as recently as, I want to say, like 50 years ago in some places. So they're old, but they're not that old. I mean, they're probably old, but I mean, maybe they're 100. Anyway, that's pretty cool. We have another violin from 1684. 1684. This is older than our country. The violin, like, I mean, our country's very young, so it's hard to, like, everything's older than our country. But also, what? I actually don't remember a lot of the details. So these antique violins came in, there was a set of like 4 of them, and these were definitely the 2 oldest and most impressive. The German one, not playable, needs extensive repairs, like the body is cracked and everything. The one from 1684, I cannot remember off the top of my head if it was Italian or who the maker was. I can't remember where it was from, but 1684 for sure.
Yeah. I mean, where do you even keep them? Do you have like a little climate controlled box?
So they both have cases. They're still on site. The room that they're in is pretty well climate controlled. They're not near any doorways. It's not drafty. Like I said, they're in the cases. The tricky thing about those is I don't want to put them on the sales floor for every rando who's ever thought about playing the violin to pick up and just, like,
absolutely not.
It's not like, no, I don't trust the civilians. But I did message, there's a luthier in Pullman who did some repairs on my violin recently, who I reached out to and said, hey, I've got some cool stuff, gave him some brief descriptions, said, if you want to come by and take a look at them, and, I've got prices on them. I don't remember what those prices are off the top of my head. And this was, 6 or 7 months ago. Yeah, and they are still there, so I don't know that he's made it over. We may end up listing them on eBay. It just hasn't happened yet, and they're not really in the way, so it hasn't been a priority. But yeah, I definitely don't want to just put them out there and, sell them for less than they're worth, because they're pretty special. So we'll see. Those are still pending.
Okay. What else?
So then we have some draft papers from 1918. So
United States Army?
Well, I think so. I assume so. I mean, what else did we have back then?
I guess Navy, at least.
Let me pull up the paper. I have a picture of it. Order of Induction into Military Service of the United States.
I guess maybe they hadn't even picked the branch. Maybe the draft is pre-branch selection.
Show up and we'll see where you fit. Yeah, so we had this, old steamer trunk, which we get, those aren't rare to get. Had this kind of cool looking old steamer trunk, nothing super special about it, kind of banged up. So I opened up the trunk to check out the inside of it, see if I wanted to put the trunk in the antique area. And what I found inside was the draft paperwork. Same name on the paperwork as was on the outside of the trunk. So I believe this to be the trunk that this man, Eugene Hathaway, took with him to World War I. So yeah, he was required to report for duty on the 19th day of October, 1918.
That's crazy.
In Detroit, Michigan. So seems like Eugene went on to live a long life based on the other things that we have donated from him. So good for him. Thank you for your service, Eugene Hathaway.
Well, lucky for him, World War I ended on the 11th of November, just a few days after.
I didn't realize that. I never looked up the dates. Well, perhaps that's why Eugene didn't quite make it.
He probably didn't actually make it to
the
deployment.
The boat had to turn around. Actually, we're good.
Yeah, I don't know what the boot camp situation was like back then. But I'm assuming he didn't even make it through boot camp.
I'm sure Eugene's mother was just praising Jesus.
No doubt.
Oh, good deal. Good deal. Still cool. Yeah.
Amazingly cool.
Yeah, truly.
Because who wants to keep those papers?
I mean, Eugene Hathaway did.
Yeah. But I would imagine most people would, want to burn that.
Sure.
Or whatever.
I mean, I think perhaps maybe for him, it was worth keeping because what a beautiful, that could have been real bad.
Yeah.
To get something like this and then have the war end weeks later. I don't know. I could see someone looking at that as a reminder of, God's protection and
yeah, definitely.
Perhaps a near miss, but in perfect condition too. Perfectly flat, not banged up, no water stains or anything. It's just in one of those Avery page protector things. But someone took very good care of this paper over the last 100 and some years.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
Yeah. So we also have let me set this up. So Ben, our dear friend Ben, works with me and has done a ton of work in the antique area as well. I mean, he started back there, I believe, when I was on maternity leave with Torin, and only stopped working back there consistently in the last few months. So he's gotten pretty experienced and just very, very good at spotting antiques, very good at finding things and researching them. So he's become a real, I don't want to say the Robin to my Batman, but perhaps I'm the Robin to his Batman because he works full time and I don't. But yeah, Ben, I trust his judgment. So very helpful to have around. So anyway, there was this day that, part of the area that we do is, like I said, the higher end clothing and accessories. So you get some name brand purses, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we had a couple bins of these purses and boots and stuff that we were going through, and he had grabbed this random purse and kind of held it up. Hey, did you already look at this one? I was like, yeah, but I wasn't sure about the brand. It doesn't sound familiar to me. I don't really get a super expensive vibe from that purse. But maybe you can look at it and see. So his first step, which is wise and should have been my first step, but Ben made better choices than I did, was to check the pockets. And what he found in the pockets was a paper clip and a stick of gum and an 18-karat gold diamond and emerald ring. It was the real deal. It was real gold, real emerald, big fatty emerald, and real diamonds.
How big of a diamond are we talking about? What's the price on this ring?
I want to say, so the emerald was definitely the center stone, and I want to say there were two diamonds, one on each side of the emerald. I bet I have a picture of it somewhere, or he may. Yeah, I'd have to go back through text messages to see what we ended up pricing it as. But that one,
I guess I'm going to have to turn this into a blog post or something with
probably
all the photos of all these
probably,
things.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So that one was interesting because when he found the ring, typically if you find nice jewelry like that in a pocket, that kind of leads us to believe that perhaps it was donated on accident. Like, most people don't, if they mean to donate a nice ring, they don't stuff it in a purse pocket.
Right.
So sometimes when that happens, we'll go, okay, this looks like something that someone might not have meant to donate. And occasionally we will get calls where someone calls and goes, oh my gosh, I just donated something. I think such and such was in it. I didn't mean to. This is really important to me. Can you look for it? Do you still have it? If we can find it in the back, it hasn't made it to the floor yet, and we can verify, like this was this person's, we'll set it aside and we'll, just save it for them. They can come back. At this point, we had already had this purse for several weeks. It was like at the bottom of the bin. So we were finally getting to it after like 3 or 4 weeks. So it's not like it had just been donated, and we hadn't gotten any calls, but still wanted to be careful just in case, because this is not a cheap ring. So I think we put a price on it, but then set it aside in the safe for another week or so, just in case somebody called, and figured if nobody calls, and there's no way this long after to track down who donated it either. And of course, you can't just get on Facebook and go, did anybody accidentally donate this expensive ring?
Right. Yeah.
Is it yours? We'll give it to you for free. So yeah, we just hung on to it for another week or so, and waited, and then nobody came. So we put it out and it sold.
For how much?
Let me look here. I can't find it anywhere, but I feel like it was at least $1,000 we put on this ring. It was pretty nice.
And I feel like Hope's Enterprises are like half of what things are actually worth.
Yeah, we always... Jewelry's tough because unless you can find the exact piece, and it's like, you can weigh it, but when you've got stones, you're weighing the ring, but you don't know how much of that weight is gold and how much of it is the stones. So it gets a little tricky. But yeah, typically we try to, if we can find something online, we're going around maybe half of what it is selling for online, so that if you buy something nice at the Hope Center and you resell it, you're still going to make a profit. So whether you're shopping for yourself or as a reseller to make an income, it's still a good deal.
Absolutely. And perhaps a retirement career for you. Okay. Any other items?
One more item. So
the coup de grace.
The coup de grace. I don't even really know what that means. The cutting of the fat.
No.
What would that mean?
It's the final. It's the killing blow.
The cut of. But what is gras?
Grace.
Oh. So this is not spelled, because I'm thinking gras like GRAS, like Mardi Gras.
GRACE with a little hat.
Class. Okay. Cool. Anyway, I speak French. So, okay. So this is another Ben story. Like I said, Ben has, often been my partner in crime for a lot of these finds. So one day I showed up for work and Ben was like, hey, we got this desk in over the weekend. Wondering, it was like a nice big roll top desk. Wondering if you can look at it and, help me decide a price for it. It just came in. Just put it on the floor. And we had also just opened. We opened at 10 a.m. So this is at like 10:01 a.m. So I'm like, yeah, let's go look at it. We look at the desk. It's got a bunch of drawers. I look at the desk, and the first thing I do is open one of the drawers on the top left of the desk. And immediately there's an envelope. And I grab the envelope. And inside, I see many $100 bills and a whole bunch of credit cards. So I look at Ben, and I'm like, to the office. So we go I'm like, this is not the kind of thing where you count a bunch of cash in front of. We checked the other drawers first also before walking away. So went into the office, emptied this envelope. There were $5,000 in cash in this envelope. $5,000. Just a whole bunch of hundos. So, and a bunch of credit cards and a couple medical bills. So, because we are
medical bills.
Yes. Because we are blessed with integrity, we found the guy who donated the desk. And I want to say, I think just based off of the medical bills or the credit cards. Anyway, found him on Facebook, sent him a message, And, you got to keep these things vague, because if you just say, did you donate a desk with $5,000 in it? Because if you come now, I'll give it back to you.
Yeah.
Like you got to be cool about it. You got to be cool.
You got to be cool.
So
play cool.
Play cool. That's basically what I was doing. So,
Game face.
game
Maggie.
face. Smile and wave. So, so I messaged him. I'm like, hey, did you, perchance, donate a roll top desk to the Hope Center this weekend? He said, yes, I did. I said, I think you may have left some personal belongings in the drawer. Said, oh, okay, what was it? And I said, first, can I verify your, which I realize now probably sounded like a scam, but I think I asked him to verify his name and address. Obviously I already had his name, but I think I used the address or some other kind of personal information that was, on one of these documents or whatever. And said, yep, that's me. Said, okay.
Did you recently have this kind of surgery?
Yeah. You may be entitled to $5,000 in cash. So I was like, okay, now that we know that you are who you say you are, here's what I found: some credit cards, a medical bill, and $5,000 in cash. And he's like, oh my gosh. He was surprised, and also not as surprised or maybe not as relieved as I would expect someone to sound after being told that $5,000 of their cash was in a desk that they donated. Here's my question, or perhaps concern. If I had anywhere a stack of $5,000 in cash, I feel like I would know where that was at all times. And if at any moment I was not aware of where that was, my anxiety levels would be pretty heightened. So
yeah, I mean,
he just didn't seem surprised. He wasn't like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I wasn't, like I had no idea. He was just like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, like
I appreciate the integrity of what y'all did, but I also feel like they made the donation. They need to be responsible to understand what they're donating. And by all means, take those things and stuff them into the safe and hold on to it for like 6 months or whatever, whatever you feel like, till the end of the calendar year, the end of the fiscal year, whatever makes more sense for accounting purposes. I don't know. But like, give it some time, because I agree with you. If you have an envelope with $5,000, presumably you're going to come to that realization. And if you're not going to come to that realization, you donated that. I mean,
yes and no. I think in situations where it's the ring and you don't know who the donor is, you hang on to it for a while. This is a lost and found situation. But if you know who the owner is and you can, if I hadn't been able to get a hold of him, or maybe there hadn't been any other, way to figure out who donated this desk, then yeah, it would have gone into the safe and we would have, hung on to it for a while. And at some point it would have been a donation. But I think when you have the name and an easy way to contact that person, it's just the right thing to do, man. I would hope. And I've never had $5,000 in cash sitting around in a desk, but I once donated a purse that had my driver's license in it. Luckily, Rob texted me and was like, hey, I found your driver's license that you've been missing for 6 months. So, sometimes we make mistakes and we don't check our pockets or our desk drawers. Well, and things happen.
I guess this is a real Judah and Tamar situation. And all I have to say is she's more righteous than I.
I do my best. I would hope that if I was ever on that end of it, that someone would do the same for me. And maybe he used that $5,000 to feed a whole bunch of starving kids in Africa.
We can only hope.
We can hope.
All right. Well, pretty good list of items.
I would say so.
I mean, how many hundreds more could we talk about?
I mean, those are the greatest hits. Yep. Until next time, I don't know how to... Treasure hunt with me next week.
Coming up on Antiques Roadshow.
Coming up. I used to
Absolutely worthless.
I used to think that show was so boring, and it still is done in a boring way. But the content, there's something about like the PBS. I swear that PBS has a filter on their shows, and the filter. You know how filters have names on like,
yeah,
the filter is called old and boring. Like that's what my brain immediately thinks when like Antiques Roadshow comes on. Even though I know the content is incredible, as someone who like that's basically my job now, but the filter, I can't get past it.
You never want to watch that with me.
Well,
when you're working, because you're like, it feels like I'm working.
I'm working when I'm thrifting. I'm working like this is just my life now. All I do is look up the value of old items.
But I've tried to like watch it,
and
you're
am.
like, no, I don't want to watch it.
When have you tried to watch it since I've had this job?
4 or 5 times. Yeah, no,
you've never been like, hey Maggie, Antiques Roadshow's on. Do you want to watch it?
No, not that it's on, but just like we could go, like sit and watch. Like I don't know. I've tried multiple times and you've never wanted to watch it. And so I gave up asking.
I think all of those times were pre-Hope Center.
No.
We watched Pawn Stars together a few times.
Yes.
Pre-dating.
Right. But I'm talking about post-Hope Center. And every time you're like, no, that feels like working
when
or whatever.
When would that even be on? We don't have TV.
I think it was available on a streaming service or something. I don't know. It was available.
I would watch it with you right now.
Okay. Well, let's do it. I haven't asked in years because I asked half a dozen times and you never wanted to do it. So I gave up.
Broke your heart too many times.
Yeah.
Well, I'm here to repair it.
All right.
Antiques Roadshow coming up.
I'm on board.
Okay. This is probably going in the post-credit, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Absolutely it is. Oh, gosh.
We got to get this on record.
We got to get this on the Antiques Roadshow.
Because I'm going to Wichita this week, and then I'm coming back, and I'm going to be like, let's watch it. And you're like, no, I'm on sabbatical. It feels too much like work. So
no, it's a work that I love.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
This is why I love thrifting. So like it's a treasure hunt.
I know. That's
I'm
why I'm
hunting for treasures.
Yep.
I am Dora the Explorer. I am
thrilled.
Indiana Jones.
I am thrilled that you are on board with this. I'm so excited.
Well, do we get to have ice cream while we watch Antiques Roadshow? Probably not.
Whatever.